Over the past years, attention for the sharing economy has increased considerably. Today, 1 out of 5 consumers has actively used platforms such as Airbnb, BlaBlaCar, and Drivey. Accordingly, the global market size of sharing services is estimated to grow to $335 billion as of 2025. Already today, peer-to-peer, P2P online markets account for revenues of 6.6 billion euros for accommodation and 1 billion euro for ride-sharing. By then, the sharing economy is predicted to match traditional rental services, whereas it is already experiencing annual growth rates up to 80%. Such numbers, however, only provide limited insights into this emerging new type of consumption, as consumer attitudes and adoption behavior may differ greatly. The main target audience of sharing schemes is represented by comparatively young, well-educated, budget-constrained, technology-affine, and urban users. They differ based on general attitudes towards sharing resources, practical motivations, concerns, demographic factors, or other characteristics such as individual risk propensity. Cluster 1 accounts for the highest values regarding benefits, product-specific, and social aspects, whereas attaching little importance to ownership-related aspects and setting the lowest value for concerns. Social enthusiasts who exhibit the highest level for sharing activity across all 4 studied categories, that is, accommodation, car, ride, and product sharing. Specifically, they rent accommodation via P2P platforms several times per year, although car and product sharing is used comparatively little, less than once a year. Social enthusiasts exhibit frequent ride-sharing patterns. Almost 1 out of 7 uses ride-sharing nearly on a weekly basis. Interestingly, only 50% of this cluster owns a car, lying markedly before the sample's overall share of car ownership, 62%. Social enthusiasts further account for the lowest mean age and use P2P sharing for more than 3 years on average. Nearly the entire cluster has already been engaged in P2P rental, 98%, being by far the highest value across all clusters. Individuals represented by this cluster live in larger households. 3.3 persons on average are the most risk-seeking group and combine the largest share of females, 33.1%. The second cluster distinguishes itself from the first one, particularly regarding their concerns. Because this group also accounts for the highest score of ownership-related aspects, we refer to this cluster as conflicted materialists. They appear to associate social aspect with it to a lesser extent. In contrast to other clusters, individuals exhibit comparatively low P2P rental activity. The third cluster differs from the other in 2 important ways. Ownership-related aspects play a much less pronounced role for this group, which may suggest a rather post-materialistic, less ostentatious lifestyle. This group, skeptic ascetics, accounts for the lowest absolute values in the 3 dimensions: benefits, concerns, and product-related aspects. It appears as if this group was rather apathetic and agonistic in view of P2P rental. Despite this classification, individuals from this group exhibit above average sharing intensity on P2P platforms, reflected particularly in high engagement levels for accommodation and ride sharing. More than 50% book accommodation via P2P platforms at least once per year, and 1 out of 4 even multiple times per year. 2 out of 3 use ride sharing several times per year, and more than a fourth indicates using a monthly base. This cluster comprises a comparatively low share of car owners. Users from this type are further characterized by a relatively long average duration of P2P platform used, 2.7 years, live in large households, 3.3 persons, and tend to be risk-seeking. Participants from the fourth cluster, individualistic refuseniks, strongly opposed to the social aspects associated with sharing. Compared to social enthusiasts, the share of females is significantly lower in this cluster, accounting for the largest deviation from the overall gender ratio. About 50% live in 1 or 2 person households, resulting in the smallest mean household size, 2.9 persons. Gender appears to play a role with regard to underlying motives for sharing. Interestingly, women express more concerns as well as benefits regarding the use of P2P platforms. However, men appear to use car-sharing services more frequently. Age seems to represent a minor differentiator for sharing in this sample, probably be affected by the limited age distribution, lower rates of car ownership among younger people, primarily for financial reasons. The most valuable cluster for platforms of P2P rental are certainly the social enthusiasts, 20.3%. Consumers' innovative mindset is expressed in comparably high risk propensity. They can be important for young startups with disruptive ideas. Individuals comprised in this cluster appears to seek and value the modern lifestyle connected to such garage companies. Regarding this awareness for product-specific aspects, companies possibly raise this cluster interest by highlighting the exclusivity of many services such as staying on houseboats, igloos, or tree houses. In contrast, it likely requires much more effort to compete for conflicted materialist, 25.4%. This cluster comprises individuals who seem to prefer owning over sharing. So far, this group has engaged little on P2P platforms. Hence, marketers may focus budgets on communicating their services, ease of use, and also promoting light versions of mobile or web applications containing merely basic functions. Therefore, platform operators can offer consumer insurances. Airbnb hosts, for instance, are protected against damages up to $1 million. Similar insurances are conceivable for consumers in case a host or driver does not show up. Similar to traditional platforms for hotel booking, Airbnb has begun to use scarcity queues as well. Messages such as only 3% of listings left for these dates or we recommend to book soon are intended to trigger booking decisions but may as well backfire, in particular for consumers concerned about unavailability anyway. However, conflicted materialists display substantial awareness of the benefits of P2P rental. Marketers should underline the global availability of their products and services. Interestingly, conflicted materialists dislike large corporations for anti-capitalistic motives. In this regard, they may also represent an interesting target group for smaller local firms. In fact, skeptic ascetics are the second most active cluster in terms of accommodation, product, and ride sharing. Moreover, marketing efforts can focus on stimulating their sense of belonging to a group of like-minded people. This could be achieved by encouraging community building on P2P platforms. Individualistic refuseniks are the least likely cluster to engage in P2P rental. The present results reveal the lowest engagement level across all but one of the four sectors. Compared to the other clusters, they are less likely to live with other persons. Companies need to account for their strong risk aversion. This may be achieved by including carefree insurances. Moreover, marketers should attempt to convince this group that P2P rental does not go along with loss of individuality. In contrast, sharing enables access to an endless and highly individual product range. Marketing efforts may refrain from conventional customer relationship management, emphasizing social experiences from personal relationships in the sharing economy. Individualistic refuseniks seem to perceive social experiences of sharing as undesirable.